In 1933, a fire broke out in the Reichstag Parliament in Germany. Hitler declared that this was a terrorist attack by the communists and used the media to spread fear and panic. He then passed the Reichstag Decree, which was an anti-terror law that stated it is permissible to restrict the rights of personal freedom. This removed the people's rights to a fair trial and free speech. In 1938, the J stamp on an ID card was used to identify Jewish shops. And on Kristallnacht, their windows were smashed and the Holocaust began. As no one could protest, Hitler was able to build the world's most brutal totalitarian state. In 1939, Germany invaded Poland, and Britain and France declared war. A generation was devastated in the hope that future generations might live without tyranny. In 1945, the Allies declared victory and said never again. To protect the world from war, they had to protect the citizen from the state. If Hitler had not taken the liberties from the German people, they might have stopped Hitler taking Germany to war. 1787, an architect invented the perfect prison and called it the Panopticon. The prisoners would be seen wherever they were, but would never know if they were being watched. It was designed to control the prisoners using surveillance alone, and was seen as the ultimate power of mind over mind. No Panopticons were ever built, but Tony Blair's most expensive legacy will be to have turned the entire country into a perfect prison. The government wants to put a tracking device in every car on the road. Surveillance cameras are being connected to directional microphones, as well as facial recognition software, so they will always know where you are and what you are saying.
But we can make choices in spending too. And instead of wasting hundreds of millions of pounds on compulsory identity cards as the Tory right demand, let that money provide thousands of extra police officers on the beat where they can actually protect people.
But now New Labour want to spend billions of our money on compulsory ID cards.
We will pursue identity cards because they're right. We think it is legitimate and right in this day and age to ask people to carry identity cards. It is the right thing to do.
Within a few years, you will be forced to carry an ID card, which will store a goldmine of private information, which will be uploaded to a database called the National Identity Register. Every time you interact with the state, it will form an audit trail, so the government will know your entire life's history. This will be linked to your medical records, your school records, and your DNA structure. Gordon Brown has already said that he will sell your information on to big businesses, whereas computer hackers will be able to get it for free. Lots of other countries do have ID cards, but in most cases they were forced onto the people by authoritarian dictators like Napoleon. ID cards were introduced to Britain during the Second World War. Churchill regretted taking our dearly valued liberties and promised to scrap them once the war was over, but he lost the post-war election before he could, and the incoming Labour government kept them on. The information on the cards shot up, and police began to demand them from people at random. In 1950, Harry Wilcock, an ordinary man from Leeds, took a stand. The police ordered him to show his ID card, but he refused and said, "I am a Liberal and I'm against this sort of thing." He was arrested, but fought his case to the highest court in the land. And as the cards were so hated, he became a national hero. The judge ruled that to demand an ID card from all and sundry has turned law-abiding citizens into law-breakers. The government abolished the cards and gave the nation back its privacy. In Rwanda, the Belgian colonial government introduced ID cards to split up the native Tutsi and Hutu tribes by their physical differences. In 1994, the country devoured itself as the Hutus mercilessly attacked the Tutsis. An ID card marked Tutsi would get you killed at any roadblock. As everyone had an ID card, it made the genocide incredibly efficient, and nearly 1 million lives were taken, in only 100 days. The secret police in Soviet East Germany had a file on every man, woman and child, with their history from the cradle to the grave, which were used as a means of control. They couldn't computerize these records, as they didn't have the technology. If they had, it would look like the National Identity Register. Britain, 1215. A row kicked off between King John and the barons over money. They rowed the king out to an island in the Thames, and he couldn't come back until he had signed the Magna Carta. The important bit is Clause 39. No free man shall be imprisoned except by the lawful judgment of his equals or by the law of the land. No one could be locked up without being charged before a court, and everyone was innocent until proven guilty by a jury. This was called habeas corpus. In 1772, a captain of a slave ship brought one of the slaves back to England, so some Quakers got a writ of habeas corpus. The slave was brought before a court, but as there was no charge, he was released. The judge ruled that slavery is so odious that nothing can be suffered to support it. A few years later, Britain banned slavery completely. Habeas corpus was suspended in Britain in the dark days of 1940. The Nazis were on the brink of invasion, so Churchill passed a law giving him the power to lock up fascists without charge. He hated the idea and called this power the foundation of all totalitarian government. When he knew the Germans couldn't invade, Churchill tore up the law and the fascists were released.